Welcome to my video submission. My name is Mohammed Riaz, student number 181-27769. This video will detail my project titled The Security Analysis and Penetration Testing of a Smart Device. Throughout this video, I will be discussing the following: the abstract, the aims and objectives set for this study, the literature review that was undertaken before carrying out the actual testing, the benefits of the project, the limitations that are faced and that are faced throughout this project, and the results and conclusion, and any recommendations I would do for any future work to carry out. So for the abstract, the IoT devices are beginning to appear in more and more households yearly, appearing in kind of various forms such as home automation systems, smart speakers, video doorbells, and kind of smart lights, kind of so on. These devices are being introduced to make our daily lives slightly easier and allow us to complete tasks in a more efficient manner. Right, like for example, with smart lights, rather than actually getting up to flick the switch, you can just do that from your phone now, and you can kind of just adjust the settings to maybe go to 25% rather than reaching the full 100. In doing this, you'll also save a little bit of money on your bill. So that's kind of little tricks and little benefits that these smart devices do provide. However, with all the benefits, you do have to ask yourself, how secure are these devices? To determine how secure smart devices are, penetration testing will be carried out on a specific smart device. Penetration testing is the process of assessing the system for any vulnerabilities which may allow an attacker to gain access to the system and then access any sensitive information that is being stored. In the paper that had been completed, penetration testing has been carried out on a smart light, with the findings being showcased. The results would then obviously demonstrate whether a smart light is secure or whether it can be accessed by someone attempting to brute force their way into the system. It was important to set aims for this project, as it would allow me to have a clear idea of how I want my project to look upon completion. In order to do this, I had set objectives. These are as followed: carry out a thorough literature review to identify known vulnerabilities on the smart bulb, carry out a thorough literature review to see what different testing methods can be implemented and gain a better understanding of related themes, and then I can obviously relate this back to my own study, and then design and develop a testing environment for smart light bulbs. So this was purchasing any necessary hardware I would require, which does include the smart bulb, and then in addition to this, downloading the virtual machine on a laptop. And then once this has all been purchased and installed, then carry out penetration testing on the smart bulb to identify areas of weakness. And then once that has been, if that has successfully been completed, I would have then evaluated the findings in the form of a report. By setting out objectives, it allowed me to identify which stage I was at each moment. It allowed me to kind of make a mental checkpoint in my head and just see how far along I was getting, and obviously how I can kind of progress from there. So then for the literature review, the main source of my literature, but it wasn't limited to, was databases. An example of a database that was used was Google Scholar. This was beneficial as it allowed me to read literature that was from a trusted author and that was quite relevant, so it wasn't outdated. The primary themes for the literature review were as follows: attitudes towards smart devices, the reason for purchasing a smart device, and the next two being IoT and penetration testing. The review was beneficial as it gave me a better understanding on who this project would benefit and the attitude, and it also provided me with a better idea of the attitudes towards smart devices and how aware people were of the kind of the security side of it, rather than just how functional it can be. So then just moving over to the benefits. After completing the project, the main benefit which I found was that it would allow me to raise a lot more security awareness regarding smart devices, and more kind of specifically the smart light bulbs. As I was looking at during my literature review, as I was looking and researching, I found that most of the literature review was based on a more high-end light bulbs, such as a Philips smart light. As a result, the kind of smart light I've chosen is more low-end, which means that it can be more relevant to a much wider audience, or to the audience that had been kind of put off purchasing the smart lights just by looking at the prices. Throughout the course of the study, there was a lot of factors that hindered the progress of the study, the main one being the kind of resources that were available to me, and this was due to kind of real world problems which had obviously affected more than myself, which was COVID-19. Due to COVID-19, there were travel restrictions put in place. This prevented me from going to and back from university, and this kind of proved difficult for me to carry out my study. As a result, the resources that were required had to be purchased from my own money, meaning that they would not be as the same quality that I would have got if I had used the university's resources. But due to the travel restrictions put in place, using the university's resources would not have been efficient for me, and it would have just been a lot more timely. As a result, that's why I just chose to purchase the smart light from my own pocket and just kind of move forward from there. Then just moving over to the results section. After the successful completion of the study, I was able to remotely change the settings of the smart light. I was able to change the color and even adjust the brightness. And then this can then be used for a much larger scale. So, for example, if you were to take control of smart light just by adjusting the lights up and down as I have done, this can be used as a start point to launch a much bigger attack. Attackers can kind of adjust the settings rapidly so the owner of the smart light believes that it's faulty. The first thing that customers would do is probably just delete the smart bulb from their home app to kind of reset it, and then obviously try installing it again. Upon attempting to kind of reconnect to the bulb, the victim would instead connect to the bulb which has been set up by the attacker, and then once they've connected, it would allow the attacker to connect to the victim's network. So if the attacker had more than one IoT device connected to their home app, the attacker would essentially have access to these and obviously move around the network. In conclusion, the project has met the aims and objectives, as the overall aim was to analyze and then carry out testing on a smart device. And as you can see from the screenshots and the screenshots attached in the dissertation, that has been successfully achieved. Then any recommendations I would have for future work. So the first recommendation I would make is to do like a side-by-side comparison with another smart light. The smart light that I do have in mind for kind of any future work would be a Philips smart light bulb, and then kind of see whether I get the same results using the same testing method. The reason for choosing a Philips smart light bulb is simply because there's a lot of when carrying out my literature review, there's a lot of literature based on the Philips smart light. As a result, it gave me a much better idea on how to kind of maneuver and just to see whether a high-end smart light is actually a lot more secure than a kind of low-end one. I think that would be a very good study to see. And another recommendation I would make for any future work was just to see whether kind of use what I've learned from the literature review and apply that to test something on a much bigger scale, like a home automation system where there's a lot more devices, and then just try applying that and testing that and see whether I'll get the same result, i.e. being able to access the system and then moving my way around, or to kind of see whether the testing method would fail on this. I think that would be a very interesting project to take. But yeah, thank you for listening to my video submission. I hope you enjoyed it.